Hey everyone, Michael Bodner coming to you live with another Tesla-tunity. Today I thought I'd talk about service. So I've had my Model 3 for just about 7 months, and you'll notice I'm not sitting in it right now. I'm sitting in a service loaner. And normally you might be upset and disappointed about something like that, but this is no ordinary service loaner. This is the P90D with Ludicrous. How often is it that you bring your car in for service and get back $120,000 race car, sub 3 seconds, 0 to 60? The answer's got to be never, or only with Tesla. I mean, this is just unheard of. But anyway, enough about the car I'm sitting in right now. Let's talk about service on my car. All right, so at delivery, I had a couple issues with the car. Now remember, I've got a low VIN, pretty early delivery back in February of this year, February 2018. And I had 3 primary concerns at delivery. One, there was an error message on the screen: charge port door needs service. Now, the delivery team did tell me right before I came in that happened overnight. The car came in fine. They were doing their last minute inspection on delivery morning, and the error message came up on the screen. Now, they said, your choice. We can replace the charge port door and delay your delivery, or you can get the car, bring it back in for service when it's convenient for you. Now, the thing is with the charge port door, the car continued to charge fine. And the door opened and closed normally from the app, from charge cable. So everything was fine. I opted to take the car, obviously. So that was the first item. The next item was paint defects. I had a couple. Right on the hood emblem, right by the T, there were some scratches. Very hard to see. I had to I didn't even notice it till my first car wash. Really hard to see. So that was one paint blemish. And then also on the back of the car, just under the trunk lip. Again, pretty tough to see, especially because a lot of the Tesla deliveries are done inside, and mine was no different. You don't get the natural sunlight, so some of these things might be a little tough to see, but a paint blemish on the trunk, just under the trunk lip. So those 2 items also found from delivery. And then third item, nearly impossible to see, the left-hand side of my glove box door was scratched. Now I say nearly impossible to see because the screen in the Model 3 does extend beyond the dash. And given that, on the left-hand side of the glove box door, it was really tough to see in the dark with the black interior. Didn't notice it till I got home into the sun and went to open the glove box door and saw the gash. Tesla service, fantastic. So a couple issues, but no concerns at all with service. Now I waited on the paint defects. At first I thought, I might live with it. But over time, I started to look at it more and more. My eyes are drawn right into imperfection. Made me a little bit nervous that I waited a couple months. What would they do? But I'll come back to that one. So the first service was mobile service. I had the glove box door replaced. Mobile service team came right out to my office in the parking lot, took care of the glove box. Scary sight. They took apart the entire dash to get to the glove box, but no problem at all. Put everything back together. Glove box was fine right after that. Next up was the charge port door. Now, I mentioned the glove box was scary. Well, this was beyond scary. They basically took apart the entire rear of the car, removed the seats, took away some panels to get to where the charge port is. That thing is really wedged in there. I mean, hopefully you don't have to have service on it. I'm sure the teams have gotten better and better over time at knowing exactly how to remove it and put it back in, but I will tell you it was really tight. The team did a great job. However, unfortunately, they did scratch my paint right in the charge port area on putting the new charge port back in. But that ended up being perfect timing because I had sat on the paintwork for a little bit, and now I had the opportunity to bring it in. Showed the Tesla team the paint concerns, showed them the scratch that was newly added to where the charge port door was, and not even a question. You have your car for a month, and you say you've got some paint issues. You might expect them to say, sorry, that's your fault. Not for a second. They took care of all 3 issues. In fact, doing a walkthrough in the car, they found a couple of stone chips and an issue on the rocker panel that pretty clearly was most likely something that I had caused. Well, they took care of that as well. So, going above and beyond, really stellar service. So that was kind of my first round of service. All right, next up, I had what is a pretty common issue out there from checking the forums, and that's the A-pillar bulge. Now, in the Model 3, you'll notice quite often on a lot of cars, it'll go straight down, it'll wave a little bit, and then go straight down again. It's made more obvious because you'll notice on the Teslas, they do put a black strip on the windshield. So when you're looking at it, it shows a finite, perfect line, but makes it obvious whenever there's imperfection. Brought in the car for a replacement A-pillar. The team did it pretty quickly. Now, I will say the car was perfect when I got it back. Unfortunately, over time, this has kind of worked itself back into the same exact issue, a minor bulge. So it could be a possible minor design flaw. That's nitpicking. Honestly, I'm not even bringing it back in. It's so minor, but I just wanted to mention that. In addition, rubber seals around the rear passenger window, they were sagging, or I should say the one was sagging. Mobile Ranger came out and took care of that within, I'd say, 2 seconds. Didn't even need a replacement part. He was able to work through it and get it reseated perfectly. All right, next up, the plastic trim piece just below the steering column. On mine, the left-hand side was sagging. It looked like the clip was broken. Mobile service was out working on one of the previous jobs that I mentioned and tried to fix it out in the field, but unfortunately there was no making the clip work. Ordered a new replacement piece. With any new car, things don't always go as planned sometimes, so the replacement piece came in. It wasn't the right piece. Again, no big deal. It's all mobile service. Went back to the drawing board, made sure the right piece was ordered, got the right piece, came back out, piece was repaired within a couple seconds, and no issues now. In addition to that, on the driver's side of the car, the chrome trim around the window, the big piece of chrome trim, that was discolored. In fact, I didn't even notice it myself, and I had already had the car for a couple months at that point. When the Mobile Ranger was out doing service on the steering column piece that I just mentioned, he actually noticed, caught it in the sun. There was a little bit of overcast, and it turned out in the sun, you never noticed it, but in overcast, you could see that the chrome trim was yellowing a little bit. The piece next to it in the rear of the car was actually perfect, so made it obvious, but again, only noticed in an overcast condition. Ordered the piece, mobile service again, right in the parking lot of my office. Came out and took care of everything. So can't really ask for much more. A couple issues here and there, but they take care of it in the parking lot where you work or at your home. Just great service overall. All right, and that brings us up to, we'll call it current day. Why am I sitting in a P90D Ludicrous right now? My driver's side signature light was out. Now, if you're not familiar with that, it's the tiny LED strip beneath the running light. Looks like the letter J. Really hard to miss if you're trying to photograph it or if you're pretty close up, but if you take a step back, it's actually really easy to notice, and upon research on the forum, it's actually a really common problem. Now, the thing is, the light actually doesn't go out, but it slips in the housing. That causes it to point in the wrong direction, and you actually just don't see light coming from the strip. As it turns out, whether the light burned out or if the housing slips, there's really only one remedy, and that's to actually replace the entire headlight. Now, it can be done with mobile service, but taking it into the shop is an easier job for the team. They have to lift up the car, take off the front bumper, take off the front wheels. Definitely a whole process, but I'm glad to have that done and have my signature light restored. In addition to that, and primarily the reason why I did bring in the car and didn't opt for the mobile service this time around was because my car needed an inspection for battery breathers. Now, I'm not sure what that is, and they did in fact confirm that my car has them, but on the lower VIN Model 3s, it's something that they need to inspect to make sure your car has it. So I passed that test, and again, that's something where they want to have the car up on a lift. It's a little bit easier of a job for them to get that one done. So they confirmed that for me. And then the next item up for bringing the car in for service was actually to get the battery management system, or BMS, update. That was an important update to have done. My car was actually stuck for a little while with getting updates, and I've seen on the forum some people stuck with older versions for even upwards of a month or two, while others seem to be getting the updates pretty quickly. The BMS update has to be done by the team. It's not over the air, and that actually is one of the reasons why people get stuck without updates. So be on the lookout for that. If you haven't already had that done, make sure you check with your service team, and they'll be able to update that for you. All right, and last but not least, actually a few days before bringing my car in for the already scheduled service, there was an update over the air. I ran it right away, as I always do, and unfortunately this one failed. That was my first experience with a failed update. Now, in this case, I called the 1-800 number for Tesla support. They checked and they said it looks like my car partially got the update. So what happened was I was stuck in between two versions. The update install was not complete. Now, the ramifications on that in my case, and this might vary for anyone who goes through this, none of my autopilot sensor suite worked. So I wasn't able to use autopilot, traffic aware cruise control, auto steer, all of that was disabled, wouldn't work. The auto wipers didn't work using the same systems. So really, you start to learn how much you love those convenience features when they're taken away for a couple of days. But that required going into the team to push the update again. And I watched along on my phone as I got the push notifications. So first time around, it looked like it might have failed because they did the update again. And then the third time I got an update, so it was actually moving between versions that had just come out the next day while my car was in the shop overnight. So ended up with the latest version out of that. No harm done. The car was safe to drive, just without some of the convenience features that I had enjoyed. Of course, the service team was great, as usual. It's what I've come to expect. And as you can see, I am back in my Model 3 after that trip with the ludicrous Model S. So I'm happy to have my car back. Can't say enough good things about the Model 3. I just absolutely love driving this car. All right, so that's 7 months of service on my Model 3. Actually, as I finish wrapping up with this video, I'm actually closing in on 8 months now, so it took me a little bit of time to put this together. It might seem like I've had a lot of service, and maybe I have, more than what would be typical, but it's important to remember I do have a low-VIN car, was an early delivery, and also Tesla definitely does things a little differently. With the advantages that mobile service brings, you don't have to kind of wait for 2 or 3 things and then bring your car in for service. They just come out. So, you mentioned 2 or 3 small little things. They order parts, things come in at different times, and they schedule appointments with you, and you don't have to feel bad about it. They're scheduling the appointments with you. It's not you saying, I demand this part and I won't wait until all 3 are in, come out and do this one. It's nothing like that. They are happy to come out 1 part at a time. They're also happy to do 3 parts at once if that's what you need. So really, they just cater to whatever works best for you. And again, I sound like a broken record here, but even if I've had a couple of service appointments and maybe more than you would hope, I really just can't say enough good things. Whether it's mobile service and the convenience of your home or at work, or you bring the car in for service and you end up with a $120,000 ludicrous Model S. I mean, just great experiences that I've had so far. I can't say enough good things. So I hope you found this informative, and it's really amazing to watch the progress here as Model 3 development really ramps up. My car is a sub 6,000 VIN, and I know my wife's actually getting hers in a couple days, and hers is over 101,000. So amazing. Just in about 7 months, we've seen 95,000 more of these cars on the road. I'm sure the cars are coming out with more reliability, better manufacturing for sure, better quality assurance. I know the teams are checking more at delivery to make sure everything's right. Some cars are being held back, but it's all for the better good, making sure you get the right car and everything's perfect. So again, I hope you found this informative, and I hope you don't have as much service as me, but if you do, it's always good to know that the Tesla team will take care of you. Goodbye, everyone.